Thank you very much, and thank you for bearing with us without a break. That's quite a challenge in this room. I would actually like to start with one sentence which we always use at the European Consumer Organization, which is don't try to change the consumer, change the system. I think this is something which is really important and should be a key takeaway of the day-to-day, which is that real solutions are not about educating people with disabilities about how to use 100 of different apps or how to use 100 of different solutions, because that's often something which is simply also not feasible. It's really about designing solutions in a way that people can easily use them. So I think when we speak about solutions in this panel, we should keep that in mind, that it's not primarily about financial literacy, but it's first and foremost about really implementing now this EU Accessibility Act and making this a reality for all people. So now I would like to start the panel, and what we have as a first presentation is actually a presentation from Access Lab to bring us really to the solution stage and not only speaking about the challenges. And so I'm handing over to Erik Gustafsson and Daniel Göransson from Access Lab to present to you one of their solutions. And you have 5 minutes, and I will be
right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, first of all, my name is Daniel, and I am a developer, but I also do what I do because of selfish reasons, because I have a visual impairment myself. So I have a lot of problems when it comes to, let's say, touchscreens and payment terminals and things like that. So I thought about this problem and think I found somewhat of a solution. We'll see. But yeah, so I wanted to bring a demo, but this demo was actually made for locker boxes. Do you have them, like parcel lockers and things like that? Maybe, yeah. See if we can. Does it show? Yeah, okay, you can see it. Doesn't really matter what it says or what sort of touchscreen this is, but usually when a sighted user come to a touchscreen, let's see if I can see now. Even they press the button. Let's see if I can. They go to the next thing. There comes a prompt. Could be like a queuing system, right? You've all been to banks, and many banks now have touch screens for getting a queuing ticket as well. So this could be something for that too. Yeah, that's it. Do I have to talk into this one? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so a sighted user just presses the button, right, and get a new prompt, and then they keep pressing the button to go to the next thing and next thing. So if you're visually impaired, how do you use a touchscreen then? You can't feel anything. Well, a lot of visually impaired users know how to use touchscreens because they have phones, right? All phones now are touchscreen based. And how does users like me navigate? Well, we hold our fingers on our screens and explore, and then it's read and announced what's underneath the finger. So in this case,
select, press start to enter PIN. Start button. Package available. Locker open to the right in the middle.
And it just works. I didn't need to activate any special function. It's the same interface as for the sighted user. And if it happens that the sighted users hold their finger a little bit longer, well, the worst thing that happens is that it reads the thing, you know. And you can still continue if you are sighted and don't need this prompt. You don't have to turn off anything or on anything. But if you're visually impaired and need this, just hold your finger and explore.
Well done. Press done to collect another package.
And that's it. Thank you for the demo.
Perfect. I think, Jakob, you sound quite enthusiastic about this solution. Do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the package locker example is perfect in this because, you know, this is the biggest obstacle, for example, with e-commerce. Even if the website is accessible and if the payment solution by the bank is accessible, you end up with a touchscreen locker and very sad because you cannot get your package when you're blind. So congratulations. I think this is brilliant. And if I may, this really ties into something which is worrying us, I'm from European Blind Union. I've been leading a sort of task force there with payment terminal accessibility. And outside this scope, I run my own consultancy on accessibility as well. So what we've been worried about is we have so many banks, probably maybe device manufacturers on the line here today, and everybody is trying to find out, what is the best solution. There's research going on. Smarter ones are talking with the users. We're developing new solutions, and we are getting those solutions which conform to the standards and which can be considered accessible. Now, what's the problem? Is that, for example, in payment terminal situation, we might end up, let's say, with 10 different accessibility solutions, which are completely accessible, but they're different. They, a lot of people still set up the solution in a way that you have to activate a special accessibility mode. And I'm really happy about your solution because it doesn't really need to, don't need to do anything special. But if we play with the idea about special accessibility mode very briefly, some manufacturers, ask you hold the bottom left corner of the screen for 3 seconds. Some other people say hold the bottom right corner. Some people say hold 2 fingers on the screen for 2 seconds. In some cases, you need to ask the merchant, the cashier, to press a special accessibility button on the screen for it to start talking, and so on and so on. And this means in a restaurant where you might have 3 different payment terminals, you never know where you end up being and how to actually start the payment process. And this, for the user, while it is accessible, it's not very user-friendly. So one point, what we how do we want to continue this discussion with us in the European Blind Union, with the colleagues from other organizations, with the manufacturers, with the banks, is how far can we go with making some parts of those things universal? And maybe we don't really need a special accessibility mode, as we've just seen. It works really, really good. So yeah, I'm honestly very excited about this. It's great. And this is where I saw this first time here right now. So it's like very popular on YouTube. You can see people reacting live. So this is something like that right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this direct feedback. I would like to bring in actually also Henrik Bourgeois, who is the new government affairs lead of MasterCard here at the European level. And my question is, for payment scheme, is there a possibility? I mean, you have options to scale solutions and to perhaps actually counteract these solutions. So what kind of solutions are you seeing to scale up a harmonized solution in terms of accessibility, and to respond to what actually Jakob was just saying, that you have 10 different solutions, you always need to adapt. It's always the person who needs to adapt and not the system. Where do you see the
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me. And let me first say how happy I am to participate in these discussions. I think, listening to the previous panel, these discussions and conversations clearly contribute to, identifying challenges and describing the challenges. And hopefully this panel will also, contribute to describing solutions to address those challenges. So, but going back to your question, look, I don't think there's a one size fits all. I don't think there's a, silver bullet, and I don't think that the participants in the, in the ecosystem, because this is an ecosystem after all, there's no one single company or innovator that is going to come up with the final solution. I don't think that there's a one single ring to find them, one single ring to bring them, or one single ring to rule them all. What we need to do is really try to take into account the fact that we are trying to serve a wide variety of diverse needs with wide preferences and varied preferences. So I think that, in this context, it's extremely important to think about flexibility, to think about adaptability, and that's what we've been working also in MasterCard, when we try to develop new technologies to build a more inclusive growth and to design really payment technology that can be used by all. And in this respect, if I still may, there's, we in the previous panel, there was a reference to a report that MasterCard jointly commissioned with ONCE that looks at the payment attitudes of people who are blind or with visual impairment in Spain. And you know, in that respect, there were 3 types of areas that were coming up as areas of focus that where work needs to be done and where improvements can be made. Number 1, it's been talked about already before, is improving accessibility of payment terminals. I think this is an area where lots of progress can be made. The other example that I would like to talk about in terms of accessibility in payments is the biometric card, which is really a very innovative product that is already available now, but basically that allows not only to identify the holder of the card, but to verify the transaction and validate the transaction with the fingerprint on the card. So that's quite exciting. And then lastly, what the report also demonstrate that there's a need to facilitate payment solutions for online shopping. And one area of innovation that we like to promote and talk about is something that we develop with others is click to pay, which basically enables you know, to make payments without the need to introduce a PIN, without the need to introduce a signature, but basically by registering a payment card, debit card, a credit card on a platform that is then recognized whenever, you know, the cash out transaction needs to take place, and you select basically and you click on it, and that's it. So these are the type of, you know, flexible, diverse types of solutions that I think we should be promoting to increase accessibility, as opposed to look for one single silver bullet for everything.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps one question back on the payment terminals, because that was a topic which came up quite often now during the morning. And what is your impact or your impact possibilities on the point of sale to really make these changes? Is that something you can mandate in your payment scheme, or is that something you only see on the merchant side?
Yeah, no, what we do is very much driven by co-creation. And so whenever we come up with new solutions and new innovations, what we do is we work with a wide and diverse set of stakeholders. And we do that throughout the development process, design process, the innovation process. And that's, for instance, why we're working with ONCE, right? Because it gives us direction as to what customers, consumers need. And so certainly what we're thinking of when we saw in the survey, the need to include tactile notches, as was discussed, right? To help the user navigate and find the right key is something that could be improved. But this is not something that we mandate. We cooperate, we communicate, we collaborate, and trying to make sure that, you know, the ecosystem adopts the best available solution.
And then maybe to bring in again Access Lab, is that something you are encountering as well, this fragmentation? I mean, you now developed a solution. How do you bring that to the market? How do you feel the market reacting as well to these kind of things? Is there a great enthusiasm in the banking sector to now directly implement your solutions, or is that something where you feel you really need to have a hard way to convince everyone to get that step?
Good question. I think after this, there are going to be a lot of more discussions, of course, and people reaching out to us about this. But I mean, we have a lot of touchscreens out there, and this is something you can implement in a touchscreen with quite easy actions. So I think just making it a bit better with the current solutions, because if you have to change with tactile buttons or tactile markings, that takes many years to actually implement and test and get it out on the market. This is something you can do very quickly and actually improve accessibility.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of interest lately making things accessible, so that's a good thing, and that's a lot thanks to the European Accessibility Act, of course. And yeah, what Eric said, I think we need to think about the devices that are already out there and see if we can at least update software, because software is much easier to update than hardware. And a accessible solution is better than no accessible solution, of course. But I think we should consider what Jakob said too, that we need a standard so they work the same way. Absolutely.
And then perhaps Jakob, to bring you in again, one question which I have is like also here again, do you see many of these solutions being developed now, or is there something where you would like to see still more? Because yeah.
We see a few. I mean, we've seen several of them here today. Onse talked about their solution. We just saw a great demonstration from Access Lab, and what the standardization parts we already covered. What we now need to see is how to deploy those solutions in scale, so that when I go to the coffee shop next to our hotel, I can pay in an accessible way. If I take a cab ride, I mean, Lars gave us a good story about having to give your PIN codes to a taxi driver because they have a touchscreen terminal. I've had a very lengthy argument with the driver and ended up getting a free ride because I didn't tell them my PIN code. I'm not a fan of accessible terminals because then I don't get free rides. So this. I mean, when I hear about when talking to organizations who are thinking about accessibility, very often the arguments come up like this makes this less secure, or this makes this uglier, or work less efficiently. And I think we are looking at accessibility, wrong in so many levels. We're maybe looking at just from the point of view of legal compliance. There have been several numbers floated around here today. 1/3 of the European population will be over 65 by 2050, which is the future consumers. They are the today's consumers as well. Every person who has a disability also, a lot of them have families, and a person with a disability has friends, and their decisions influence how we do things, because I might book a holiday for my 20 friends, but I'm not going to choose a place which is inaccessible for me. So it really needs to be looked at, one, from a business perspective. And the second part here is to actually understand why we are doing this. And we're not just doing this to comply with the European Accessibility Act. And this is what everybody here today who's working in an organization can do tomorrow, is look for knowledge, training your people, training your staff, people who make decisions, who implement solutions, to just get the understanding, what does accessibility actually mean? And I don't mean the deep technical knowledge. This is where actual accessibility experts come in, and we help to work those issues out. But the motivation, the understanding to create really working solutions, I think this is one of the key parts in here.
Yes, and I think that's a very important point here, because I think one of the criticism which is often heard in the framework of accessibility is a lot about, okay, it only serves a minority of people, or it's very expensive, or these kind of things, which it's simply not true that it's only a minority of people. I mean, we heard several figures right now, and I think it's a group which is also going to grow, because it's not a question of generation, it's a question of age. That you become, that certain services become inaccessible to you. So now, question perhaps to those who are more closer to the market. We heard a lot about thinking accessibility directly from the design phase, thinking accessibility maybe also in terms of marketing strategies. We are reaching, wanting to reach a group of people which are very often excluded. How do you think that in those kind of strategies of designing a new product, marketing strategies to people?
Yeah. So if I may try to formulate an answer to that question. First of all, I completely agree with Jakob. I think, if you look at this simply from a legal compliance, you're going to fail as an organization, as a business participant, as a market participant. And, I work for MasterCard, and MasterCard is clearly a company that is committed to inclusive growth, right? And so when we do it also because it's morally the right thing to do, but also because, you know, by doing this, you simply make the, you know, the digital market more resilient. You come up with new innovations with positive derivative effects in terms of innovation for all users. And so this notion that, you know, somehow there's a dilemma or a trade-off, I think is simply wrong. And these are false choices. And we should be promoting, you know, as I think, you know, you said, think about the fact that, you know, there's millions and millions and tens of millions, not hundreds of millions of Europeans that experience directly or indirectly one sort of, you know, disability. So it goes without saying that by looking at this holistically, you create huge market opportunities in terms of growth, in terms of resilience, in terms of modernizing the market in which you operate as well. The other point I wanted to come back to very briefly, if I may. Yes, there are a lot of different options available in the marketplace. Yes, standardization is good because standardization, you know, avoids fragmentation. It creates scales, economies of scope. It's a good thing. But the optimistic way to look at the fact that there is fragmentation today is simply, you know, it's the result of the fact that market players have been seeing this trend, have been playing on it, and have been, you know, going with new solutions and going faster than the regulations, which is what usually happens. And then when you think about for standardization, I think, you know, we need to be very careful while standardization is good, that you pick the right standard, I understand, and that you don't unlevel the playing field, and that you don't, you know, adopt the lowest possible standard.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I really love that the EAA has come into effect. It's going to help a lot of people. But I think we need to start with not thinking about the law at all and thinking about the user perspective. Because if you think about the user perspective, test with users, you're probably going to make a compliant product because it works for people. There might be minor differences, but you're probably not going to be fined for not ticking a box in the law if it actually works for people.
Yeah, exactly. And you could, of course, use the EAA as a starting point, but absolutely think about users first. So every time you introduce a new innovative solution or trying to go faster than, you know, regulation, you should always have users with different abilities in mind. So the product must work for people who can't see, can't hear, and so on. Yeah, so if you have at least you know, tried your product without, you know, you can do some things yourself. You can, you know, pretend to not see or things like that, but also do user research, meet real users, and when your product works, then it's probably accessible by the law as well.
Maybe Jakob, you want to come in on this aspect of user testing. Is there any recommendations you can give to market participants about how this user testing can be effective and working out on?
Yeah, user testing is it gives you a very good idea on what people want and how do they interact with your product today. What is the process? What is the benefit of your existing solutions? What I see sometimes, because we are in Europe, we have very different markets, and we have markets at a very different size. One thing to keep in mind with users is you need to also involve enough users. Talking to just one blind person will never give you information you want, because this is just one person. And a blind person by itself doesn't mean that they are an accessibility expert. So the idea is that they will give you ideas and thoughts which work very well for them, but might not work for somebody else. But putting that aside, involving people in your feedback loop, gathering feedback from your customers before you implement new solutions, and obviously after you've implemented them, will mean that you're not just ticking those boxes. You're not just you know, ensuring compliance with EAA, but you are actually making your services better. And it's important because there might be some things which the EAA doesn't tell you to do, or the standards don't tell you to do. I'll just give you an example. I sometimes end up impulse buying some technology gadgets because I'm a tech nerd, and I ended up Googling for some temperature sensors for my home, and I found a website, and one of the options on the product page to pay was with Apple Pay. Before I managed to sort of click this, or really quickly after clicking this, I had already bought this. I was so excited because usually I am confronted with inaccessible forms, very difficult to fill in information, lots of questions, errors, and it just takes me 10 minutes and I usually end up not buying something. So Apple Pay isn't required, and you shouldn't use Apple Pay as, you know, a single accessible solution, but it's one of those tools at this stage where helped me very easily complete my purchase. So ease of use. And while we are trying to tell you right now not to look at this from the legal aspect, it's still a legal obligation. And if you, which means if you don't comply, your users will be angry at some point. And I'm now talking as a user. I'm feeling a lot more happier since 2 days ago, and from the 20th of June, because 3 days ago now, because I have another way of making myself heard and making myself across. I don't want to come out with the legal aspect, but I will definitely do that if people stop responding. And another point is that accessibility needs to be incorporated really on all levels of your company, from top to down, because otherwise we not end up being successful. You need to include accessibility in your procurement. It's non-negotiable if you buy services or products that they are accessible as well, because otherwise the system is not going to work. One very short just example how your users might see this is if a banking app, which I use, is unable to label a button in their app for the screen reader to properly read this out, it doesn't create a very good and secure feeling in me. Why do I need to trust people who are not able to label a button for a screen reader with my money? So it looks like a very loose and very unprofessional solution for me. And this is how people who are using screen readers might just see your products. And you need to understand how it works to create great experiences for all of your clients.
Okay, perfect. If I'm not mistaken, we have time for 1 or 2 questions. I see one person over there, and then Alexander from the EDF afterwards. I think there is a microphone coming to you.
Hello, Hugh O'Donnell representing Ingenico. We're a terminal manufacturer. And from EAA coming into force, we are seeing so many of our customers, banks, etc., asking us questions. And thank you for all of the clarity here today. I couldn't agree more with Jacob in having a unified approach to the software. For the hardware, for the manufacturer, as us as Ingenico, and we do also do some of the software development ourselves, but we have many of our third parties doing software development. And if you leave all of the individual companies independently develop their own systems, you won't change the system, which I know was your exact point at the beginning. Lars said at the beginning, we have a fragmented solutions. I believe now is the time to have somebody have oversight across all countries. Because what we're also seeing is divergence already between different countries. Some have transposed the directive into law, and then we have banking standards on level 3, which is the third stage you get to before you certify, and they are imposing their own standards. So what are we going to have is divergence across Europe. Thank you.
Is there any reaction to this? I think it links also back to a bit of a question of how do we work together out of silos between the banking sector and the sector who is working on accessibility questions. We heard also from you earlier today that please, the banking sector has to join the standardization work on the accessibility work. How do we, perhaps question to Jakob and then also to Hendrik, how do we now with the implementation of the Accessibility Act bring those two very important groups together? Which kind of forums do we need to bring them together? Is that in the European Retail Payment Board? Are there other sectors where we can bring those two together?
Yeah, I very much agree with those points, and I think this is one of those things we're trying to do, or what we have outlined in European Blind Union as well. We would be happy to be one of those discussion holders behind this table and this forum. It wouldn't be just us. We need manufacturers, representative organizations from the banking sector to be with us, so that, as you said, we would be able to create an ecosystem where everybody understands, why we're doing this and how we should make this so that those tools would be, the payment terminals, for example, would be working for everybody. And we'd like to have a wide enough pool with this, so that we wouldn't leave out any existing great and fantastic solutions, because eventually we want to have solutions existing which are best for the users.
Any comment?
Just briefly, I also agree with the point that was made. I think this is not, unique to this, product, to this sector. I think this is something that we've been struggling in Europe for a long time. That is a continuous construction side. It's about the single market. It's about ensuring that we have harmonization, so that, consumers and market participants can really benefit from this single market, this large market. And so we have therefore standardization bodies in Europe. I don't know which one would be the appropriate one for payment terminals, but that's the area where I would start looking.
Perfect. Alejandro.
Thank you very much. One of the elements of the Accessibility Act in relations to products and also services is the interoperability with assistive technologies. And I'm also talking by experience, by personal experience here, because I also struggle with payment terminals, and fully agree with the call for harmonizing solutions and looking for scale and so forth. But I wonder whether it would be possible and also faster in the meantime to really ensure that, for example, now blind and partially sighted people, we rely very much on our smartphones, which are very, very accessible, and they actually work in a way like it's a little bit like our assistive technology in the past. So what Jacob mentioned on Apple Pay, for example, we see now all payment terminals being able to have this contactless technology to just tap the card and pay, but also tap the phone and you can pay. Would it be possible, I wonder, and maybe even the colleague from the terminals organization can also jump in, would it be possible to make sure that there is the information on the payment terminal is transmitted to the phone before payment, so the blind and partially person can actually, with the settings that we already have set up in our phones that are good for us, whether screen reader or large font or higher contrast, whatever, the interface will actually be adapted to our needs, and we will be able to see how much we are paying, whether we want to accept or not, to insert our PIN code, to put a tip, whatever. So would it be possible to transfer that information to the phone and then back tap again to the payment terminals to confirm the transaction, something like this? So I just wanted to stress and to ask openly, like, apart from stressing the interoperability aspect, whether we could also look for these synergies with the already most accessible piece of technology that we all have in our pockets.
Any reply on this? Or is there? It was a putting on the spot, but
I mean, it should be possible.
Yeah, in
Why
theory.
not?
Absolutely, and I think that's something that the phone vendors and the payment system companies needs to work out to send that signal. But I really like that idea. That's something I would like as well, to be able to see how much money I pay before I tap my phone on it. So it's a whole customer journey, right? So we need the receipts as well to be able to come to us digitally, so we can read them in an accessible way.
So I'll just respond from the terminal manufacturer's point of view, that all the terminal manufacturers today are under PCI rules that we have to meet. And PCI, PTS, and PCI DSS are the core of security. So if we were to allow something like that, we'd need the validation of PCI in the first instance. Maybe Henrik, you'd like to add a comment on that, but we are bound by PCI rules. So connecting Bluetooth and Wi-Fi wouldn't be possible today. Whether there could be a common European app, something like that, where it's transmitted over a network, but then that information is still going out over the air. So there would be, first and foremost, the security concerns.
NFC, right? Could be used.
It could be NFC as well as a communication means.
Yeah, and I can I have a diabetes monitor thingy that uses NFC, and when I touch my phone to it, it transfers the data from the chip.
Yes, but data within a payment device has to be secured.
Yeah, of course.
And that security today, I can go into all the details for point-to-point encryption and what is necessary, and even the application doesn't have the full PAN details. So security is the core of our DNA, and we need to ensure that security is not compromised as a result of giving out this sort of information.
Of course.
Yeah, so a collaboration is probably in need there, because tap to pay with phones work well now, and yeah, so hopefully we can find new accessible solutions for the whole customer journey there.
And Jakob, you wanted to come in here?
Yeah, first of all, another part we see a lot is phones themselves being used as payment terminals. So a merchant may not have even a hardware terminal, but they're using an app-based solution. So, I think, as you said, collaboration in figuring out what we can do here is key. And I would be totally a fan of tapping my phone against a payment device, seeing what I will be paying for, how much I will be paying for, adding tips, etc., and then completing the payment. What I think is another, and I'm adding just more issues into this pool, is we are hoping to design those existing solutions as universally as possible. So somebody who does not have a smartphone comes to pay, how do they do it in an accessible way as well, without compromising what will be happening? And I think we need to keep people in mind. We heard many examples of the digital gap earlier today. So I think we need to work on those problems on multiple levels. For people who are using smartphones, we can do amazing things, and we need to make those amazing things happen for those who are not using smartphones as well. So
perfect. And then we have one last question before concluding the panel.
Hello, I'm Marc Offrand, representing AVH Organization for the Blind in France. I'm blind by birth. What worries me with the word iPhone is what does happen if we lose our iPhone? What does happen if we forget the iPhone in the hotel? What does happen if our iPhone is stolen? And it's a situation that we have to consider. So I would think working on accessibility of payment terminals would be more reassuring on that point. Also, I understand there are discussions, interesting discussions made in Spain with ONCE. We also have in France parallel discussions, and I think it's high time we meet. Thank you.
Perfect. And then there was one other comment, and then we close the panel.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Manuel Pereira from AVH too. So as Mark said, we worked hard on technical specifications to promote accessibility in terminals, and we work with actually with Ingenico, Verifone, and some other manufacturers. And just I totally agree with the need to harmonize the standards in all Europe. It's very important. And there is one thing I just would like to give you an example. When you have a payment terminal and you need to activate the accessibility option, you have two choices. Actually, in France, you will have to put your finger in the screen during 3 seconds, and the accessibility option will be activated, and the retailer don't have anything to do. But we know that other countries want to put on the retailer the activation of the accessibility option. So this point has to be discussed, because I think we need autonomy, and if we can activate this option by ourselves, it's the best.
Okay, thank you very much for these insights. We will conclude now. I would give really 30 seconds per panelist to conclude and to share perhaps your key takeaway from the panel today. I will start just quickly to say that my key takeaway from the panel is that we need to bring together different standardization bodies working together, and to really make sure that also the standards work together, and that we can implement such innovative solutions which we heard today. And now over to Jakob.
Yeah, we've been pretty much on the payment terminal section for this panel, but since the event is about banking accessibility in general, I would really just want to enforce this point. Go back to your offices and start learning, start teaching everybody else, bring in the knowledge. There's plenty of opportunities to understand how accessibility works, how digital accessibility works, how to do accessible customer service, which is a very critical point, including built environment, the knowledge and the understanding inside your company, and don't rely on just one person in your company, because when they leave, the accessibility leaves. So this is what I would like to see is banks and the finance sector businesses becoming very much accessibility focused. It's not actually that hard, you know, really. If once you get the basics, it's fun.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and I think that we need to think about the security part as constraints that you can find workarounds for. I mean, years ago, you wouldn't have Samsung Pay, Apple Pay, because it was a security risk. We have them now. So I think everything is possible if you work with the constraints and try to find solutions for them.
Yeah, and I think standards are a very good thing, and that makes all our products usable for a lot of different people. And we've been talking a lot about how to make things accessible for people with visual impairment now, but I would also like to remind a lot of people with motor impairments have problems reaching payment terminals. So that's good that that's in the EAA standards as well. So things can be put in a height so people can reach them. And the last thing I want to mention is that don't forget about the complete customer journey in banking. It's about signing up for the bank or for the service. It's about being able to log in. It's about being able to pay and then see your receipts or payments and data like that. So full customer journey.
Okay.
If I have only 30 seconds, I would like to use them to remind you of the fact that MasterCard and Grupo Social Once released a report, I think today will be released today, on user experience. I think it's important for two reasons. Number one, it shows how much work still needs to be done. And to Jakob's point, it's not based on one single user, it's based on, you know, statistically relevant sample of participants. And number two, it's an important report because it gives us direction where we have to go and look for solutions. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much to all the panelists.